I always love watching the little red bar just kind of slowly say that it's setting up the meeting, because I know there's always going to be so many interesting things that could have been said during that time. All right. So I will go ahead and share with all of our friends on Facebook that we are here. And feel free to share that as well. All righty. That is live there. All right, guys, if you are here, say hi. Leave me a comment. Let me know you guys are here. We are going to get started in just a minute. We'll wait for a few people to come hang out with us. And let's see, Becca. Hi, Becca Bjorky is here. Welcome, my darling. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best. I know that this is going to be a really spectacular conversation. So I think we will have lots of really fantastic distractions for this one. And we'll try to stay off of the yucks. No icky topics. If you have your wine, drink your wine, or whatever your drink of choice may be. Yes, indeed, indeed. All right, guys. So now that we have some friends with us, let's go ahead and get started. All right. Welcome back yet again, everybody, to another episode of the Social Hour. I'm so glad to have you guys here. This week, I'm really excited because I get to talk to a pretty extraordinary woman. Mayhew is a fashion and fine art portrait photographer who specializes in helping regular women turn into works of art. She creates an experience where women can blossom into the extraordinary creatures they truly are and captures them with flair and finesse. Her work is fashion forward with a timeless, effortless appeal that celebrates the unique beauty of her subjects. She's had work published in countless publications like Glassbook, Papercut, and Professional Photographer magazine, and she's been a featured speaker sharing her knowledge at events like Portrait Masters 2020. She's also one of the newest instructors for PRO EDU, where she'll be sharing her approach and technique with the masses. Please join me in welcoming the lovely transformation artist, Miss Mayhew.
Hey guys, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for joining us. So excited.
Yes. I'm so looking forward to it. Kelly Robitaille is here. Bobby Thompson is here. Jay Coy is here. Please tell me if I get your name pronunciation wrong. Is it Mawia? Whap me if it's wrong. Tell me how it is, because I hate mispronouncing names. I feel like that's just the worst thing ever. And I want to get your name right. So please let me know. So everybody, don't forget, during the course of this interview, please ask Jay your questions. That's what makes this conversation so awesome, is the fact that we get to include you guys as we go. So feel free to get those in the comments, and I will get to them as we go through the conversation. Jay, yay! I'm so glad we get to do this.
I'm so excited. I'm so honored. Thank you.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
A distraction from what's happening in the world right now. So talk about pretty things. Let's do that.
Exactly. That's exactly what we need. We just need to come together and hang out and not worry about anything, talk about art and all of the good stuff that goes with it. So yes. So I always love to start just kind of finding out what drew you to photography in the first place. How did you end up in this profession?
By accident. So I love that. Working in politics in DC.
Wow, for real.
Is this not coming full circle right now? I know.
That's so crazy.
I know. And I just hated what I was doing. I kind of fell into it. I was a PR major in school, and I didn't know that I was a creative. I took one photography class in school, and my photography teacher did not like me. He was a former he did not like me. He was a former newspaper photographer, and he really liked non-artistic work. And there's nothing wrong with that. He was taught to get the story. He was taught to get the real shot, the nitty gritty shot. So he would give us these assignments. Like he gave us this one environmental assignment, and he basically told us to go shoot a desk. He's like, don't move anything, go shoot a desk. So I went back to my dorm and I shot my desk. Well, it was a hideously boring assignment. I mean, my desk was cluttered, it was dirty, it was boring. So I started cleaning and I started moving things out of the way. And then I start like this Zen arrangement. And then I start adding like flowers, and then it becomes this beautiful thing. So I turn in this assignment and he's like, that's not your desk. I'm like, what? So like we fought the entire semester. We just fought. But I love him for the fact that he challenged me to look at what I saw and try to see differently. And that is artistic growth. He and I had different styles, and I was not even a photographer back then, but he challenged me on what I saw. And to this day, I don't remember his name. He doesn't remember me, but I remember that. And I love that. But anyway, so I was a PR major. After school, I end up in politics. I'm in DC, and I'm just miserable. It's not a fulfilling career in any way, shape, or form. In DC, it's not even what you do, it's who you work for. It's who you're connected to that matters. So before people even care about your name, it's who do you know? Who can you get me connected to? Who can you get me, associated with? It wasn't my thing. And so I ended up quitting, which is not a great piece of life advice when you're paying DC rent prices and have just graduated and have nothing else going for you. But I did. And I had a couple of friends who are photographers, and one of them said, hey, come hold a reflector since you literally have nothing else to do with your time. And so I did, and I wasn't learning photography at the time, but because I had done this, because I had stood in a studio and held a reflector, a girlfriend of mine said, hey, would you come and take a picture of me for my boyfriend? And with no skill, but a ton of confidence, I was like, of course, I will do that for you. So I borrowed this really old camera and did her makeup, and we went to a park, and I took terrible pictures of her. Terrible pictures. But she loved them, and I loved them. And in that moment, I fell in love with this idea of creating something for someone that hadn't existed before, of making her feel beautiful. And it was like this little spark of, oh, maybe I could do that again. I had no skill. I had no ideas. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. It was just a moment of, I enjoyed that. Maybe I could do it again. And that's literally where it started. It was that simple. I enjoyed that. Oh, you're muted.
Of course I am. I love how that's real life, folks. I have loud children. So I love how everybody has kind of a different way that sometimes we're heading in this direction full steam ahead, and we've known from the time we're little, and other times it's like, hey, this could be fun, or let me help somebody out real quick, and just find that, like you said, that spark, that moment of, maybe I could really do this, that just propels us forward. What do you think it was about making somebody feel beautiful that affected you so much?
I was not that pretty girl growing up. I like to say that I was the funny friend.
Hard to believe, madam, hard to believe.
As an adult, you can put time and effort into whatever you want to. As a child, you're kind of stuck with what genetics and time and your mother's sense of fashion gave you. So we're going to leave that there.
That is true, because I remember having bangs and snake hair for several, I don't know, do people know do you know snake hair? You know what I mean? Like when they would wrap this part and spray it, and then it would all go like this, this on these sides. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I had that.
Stopped at Land's End for me all the time. I think it was a way of keeping me from dating for a really long time. Land's End, girl. I can't even. I can't even. I feel like a lot about me can be explained if you just look at the pictures of like 8 to 12. But so I like to tell people I was the funny friend, but the truth is I wasn't that funny. I just wasn't the noticeable person. And so the idea of being pretty was something that I thought was really literally really attractive and something that I resonated with. And I loved looking at pictures of models. And I grew up watching those old Hollywood movies. Like I grew up in Germany on a military base, and we didn't have TV. This was the era before Netflix and Instagram and Facebook. This is like Stone Age, like prehistoric era. And what we had was this very small library base with these old Hollywood movies, like the Hitchcocks and the Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers and just all these old, musicals. And that's what I grew up on. And so this idea of just glamour and romance and style and gowns, like all of that just resonates with me. And so I think I love hearing an artist's background. Like I want to talk about your background in this call, because your work and your composite work, like I am blown away. Like I get into Photoshop and I try cutting things out and I get so so frustrated so fast. And your work is flawless. Like it's flawless. But I think when you know a person's background, it gives you this real sense of why they're drawn to what they're drawn to. And I think when you look at my work, you can see maybe some of my roots. Like I've tried to shoot edgy things. I've tried to shoot more, I shoot a sensual style, but I'll say sexier things, harder, edgy, I can't. It's not how I see. I see a softer, more romantic style. And I think that comes from my background. So all of this kind of played together. And then I see a friend who wants to feel beautiful in a photo. And I think this all just kind of comes to the surface. And it's like, well, I would like to feel beautiful in a photo. Maybe I could do that for her. And so when I shoot my clients, I very much put myself in their place. And it's like, I understand, I don't like to be photographed. I will come right out and say, I don't like to be photographed. It's a very vulnerable place to be. And I think as a woman, most of us are used to having our insecurities validated. We are used to just seeing the worst parts of us reflected back. And I know for myself, that is typically the case. I had one client, she came in and she told me that she'd had one photo experience where she'd gone in, it was a family shoot, and she'd gotten all ready. She had a stylist get her ready, hair and makeup. She was so excited for these pictures. She got them back, and I think she'd spent like $300. It was one of those shoot and burn experiences.
Sure.
And the photographer, it was really more of like a child type photographer. Like I think she did a good job with the kids. She didn't photograph the woman well at all. And this woman ended up spending like 20 or 30 grand on plastic surgery after the shoot because she was so horrified with how she looked in the pictures. Portraits have power. We are telling people, this is what you look like. This is your image. This is your likeness. There is power and responsibility in that. I will get on a soapbox about this. I am passionate about this. So it's like a calling for me to have women stand in front of me and reflect beauty back at them. So I am very passionate about what I do. Very passionate.
I love that so much. And what you said, I think just resonated so much with me in so many ways, especially this idea of a lot of people, I don't know how many people look at it as a responsibility, but I think that that's so powerful because it is. I mean, a portrait at its fundamental level is, this is what you looked like at this time in your life. Sure. But beyond that, I mean, there's something beyond that, right? Like you could take a candid shot of somebody on the street, or you could, there's a million different ways to take a portrait of somebody. And it really is profound that you find that responsibility is showing them the beauty that you see. And that is also who they are. I remember when I was earlier in my career, still shooting boudoir, and seeing these women come in and it was young moms, or sometimes it was middle-aged and beyond moms, but it was these women who needed to reconnect to that sensuality and to that sexuality even, and be able to look at themselves and be like, this is a sensual, beautiful creature.
Yes.
And I love that you look at that work and there's this soft, romantic, lovely, glamorous side of these women. And going back to how you felt as a kid, seeing that growth reflected in your work. Do you feel now, not wanting to be in front of the camera, do you feel maybe that that's something that you need, or that you are in some way kind of giving other people something that you need, or that you kind of maybe won't let yourself have?
Like that I should be in front of the camera?
Right. Yeah. I mean, with somebody like yourself, right? Like, do you think that maybe you're playing the role for yourself that you wish that, not that you wish you could have? I feel like I'm getting a little philosophical here, but
you went deep fast.
I know, I'm sorry. I know, well, I know for myself, I need to believe that magic is real. I need to believe that we're more than what we seem. And I need to believe that we can be the hero of our story. And so everything I make is fantastical. It's not, I don't even color grade things so that things look natural. I don't want that. I want it to be, here is what it could be, or maybe what it is beyond vision. And so I wonder with other people, is that something that you need in your own work? Like, you're giving it to people, but is that maybe something you need as well?
So yes, I mean, I think so. I think that it's something that every woman, and I think it's almost like doctors, like, so my grandfather is a doctor and was a very successful doctor who now doesn't want to go to a doctor. It's like one of those things where sometimes you can do something and then you don't want to go to someone else for it. So yes, I think every woman should have this experience. I remember one of I think it was the second Portrait Masters conference. I got the opportunity to be photographed by another photographer. It was kind of impromptu. I'm wearing a garment bag because I was wearing a white tank top and that was not like the right vibe. So I pushed the straps down and wrapped this black garment bag around me. And I had another photographer like wafting this like paper, like cardboard at me to create a fan. And I mean, I love that portrait. And I remember it being the first portrait of me maybe in like the past decade that I really loved, that I really felt like this is like this new version of me. And it was empowering, and it's printed large and it's hanging in my closet, and it is an empowering moment. So it's a few years old at this point, but it's something that every morning, it's an energizing thing for me. So I reflect on that and share that with my clients when we're talking about wall art, when we're talking about a picture being in your life, not living on your phone, not living on your Facebook, a picture reminding you of who you are, reminding you of this moment, reminding you how you felt in that moment, and energizing you every day. So like, yes, I absolutely do think it's something that I should do again. I should get down here and take a self-portrait. I don't. I get frustrated. It's so easy to shoot someone else. I'm like, it's been 10 minutes. Why isn't there a great picture already? But it's something I should probably put more time into. I'm willing to do it if my daughter is in the picture or something like that, because then I'm like, okay, it's the two of us. It's
yeah.
Myself. It's like, oh, come on. I'll just use my iPhone. It's fine.
Oh, but see,
Not the right attitude.
and that's so interesting too, how quickly and easily you can be like, not just for me.
I know.
If my daughter's in it, but not just for me. No, it's not a flaw. I think that's just, I feel like as women, we do that so much, my mama is here. Hi, mama. She says, just by hearing that, it tells me that you are a beautiful person with a good heart.
Oh.
I love my mama. But she very much, I wanted to give her a portrait for Mother's Day, and I wanted, she's never loved photographs of herself. So I wanted to give her something. And it was the same, the way I was able to get her to do it was be like, okay, we'll put your grand boys in there with you. Like, we'll put the boys in there with you. And I wish we could want that for ourselves more. And I wish we could feel like just you for you is enough, And I feel like that is what you're giving to your clients.
Oh, it is. It is for sure. It is for sure. It's more that I get frustrated at, like, I think as a woman, you have to get hair and makeup right, and then the angle right. And like, there's so many components when you're trying to do a self-portrait for yourself that when my daughter is in it, it's like, okay, I'm spending all this time and it's the two of us. And when it's just me, it's like, oh, for the love of God, I've been down here for 45 minutes. And like, can we just get a picture already? But, like, it's fine. I will put that on the list of things that I do need to do, because yes, I really should do that more. I should do that more. I
completely agree.
To get a series of headshots, which thank God I got, because then I actually needed them this year. So the one good thing of COVID was a selfie. That was the one thing I got.
No, I'm the same. That's why I haven't made any additional work, is because I'm not willing to put myself in front of the camera. I did it one time and turned myself into a cyborg. It's not really the same thing.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Let's talk about that. Let's go back for a second and talk about that.
So my profile picture on Facebook right now is is a portrait that I created for the Alchemist Library, which is kind of a collective group of creatives. We got together and just made quick mini tutorials for people so that they could, you know, do some learning. And we kept the price really super low. So it's like 15 different tutorials for less than $150, just to give people something to learn on. And so it was supposed to be for Halloween. And so my husband was like, don't make me do it, please. And so I was like, fine, I will use myself, because my boys, I feel like, are too young to be evil cyborgs.
Fair.
So
Fair.
I did that to myself. But even then, I mean, I feel the same way. Like, if it was supposed to be like, you know, a beautiful portrait of me, I probably wouldn't have done it for myself. I would have been like, selfie. that would have been it.
Yeah.
I think so many of the women in the comments agree with us as well. So Kelly said, I get that. I can't get my portrait taken. Huge insecurity. Better to live in blissful ignorance. So I think they feel us there. Before we go on, I promised them I would ask it. Pro EDU photography tutorials would like to know, Jay, are you here for it?
I'm so here for it. Oh God. Okay. That's an ongoing joke. I'm here for it.
They made me do it. I made them show up to ask it. I was like, you have to show up and ask it. I'm not going to say it all by myself.
Oh God.
Yes. David agrees too. He says every photographer should be in front of the lens more. It is a hard thing to do when you're behind
you of the vulnerability that your clients have to experience in that space. It's one thing to, like, when my clients are standing in front of me, there's never dead space for probably more than 30 seconds. I am always talking to them. I am always giving instruction, giving encouragement, giving something. Because when there's that silence, their nerves start to rise. Is she not happy? Is something wrong? Do I not look good? Like, I'm always talking. And I didn't realize that until it was pointed out to me. They're like, you don't shut up during a shoot. But I think it's a good thing, you know, like, because when you are quiet, and I've had clients say that to me. I had one shoot and the photographer didn't say 2 words the whole time. I didn't know what he was thinking. Like, they need that feedback, because in silence, their insecurities start to grow. So I do think it is important that you get in front of someone else's lens, not just your own lens.
Yeah, agree.
But that's I'm now gonna have to take my own.
Yep. Well, you know, hopefully once COVID is over, the last professional photographer to take my portrait was actually Olga. Hi, Olga, who's in the comments section. She took a family portrait for me. She's actually engaged to my brother. So we are close. Yeah. So it was like, that's the last time I've actually had my portrait taken by somebody who's not me.
Well, you'll have to go to St. Louis, and we're going to have to fix that too.
Yeah. It'll have to happen. I was just sitting here, you know, like, after researching you and going through your work and then being able to talk to you, I keep thinking to myself, like, I probably better do it.
Oh my God. Yes, please. Can we show each other? Can we please do that? Can that be a thing?
Yes.
Yes.
My kids don't have
angel wings
portraits.
Can that be a moment that happens?
I have them. I can bring them. I have fairy wings too.
Angel wings. I really do. That'd be a moment.
They're so expensive though, angel wings. Like, good ones are so
You didn't make them, you bought them?
No, I made them because I couldn't afford to. If you want to buy really good ones, they're
I know.
They're a lot of money.
I know. I keep thinking about possibly buying them because I don't have the patience to make them. I would probably like hot glue my hand to something, and then there'd be a lot of cussing, and then it would not be a happy moment anymore. Yeah.
I know you do hot. Yeah, I definitely hot glued all over myself. But I mean, they still work. They've been through multiple shoots now, and they are still pretty sturdy. So I mean, it can be done. It can be done. So after you decide, okay, I loved that feeling of making this woman feel beautiful, maybe I can do that again. Do you think immediately, entrepreneur, start a business for myself, get this moving? Do you start looking for a studio to work out of? How did you approach actually getting into photography after that point?
It was a really kind of slow dabbling in it, because I didn't take it super seriously at first. It was just, that was fun. And now I have a few friends asking me to shoot them. And then I had a few girlfriends who were models, and that's when it actually got serious. So I'd never really started in portraits. I started in the fashion and commercial side because I had girlfriends who were models, and that's where I really started to get serious about it. I started trading them test portraits for bottles of champagne, which started to work really well for me. And then they started referring me to their friends who worked for the agency, and then the agency started hiring me. And then that's really when it started rolling for me. That got me entirely into the commercial and fashion side of things for a handful of years. I didn't actually get into the portrait side of things until my daughter was born. And that was when we were in New York. And then we moved from New York to St. Louis. When we got to St. Louis, I'm no longer in DC or Texas or New York. And I'm no longer in a place that's really going to support commercial or fashion work. And it's like, okay, if I'm going to keep working, I have to transition what I'm doing because there's just not enough here to support. And now that I have a daughter, I can't travel the way that I did before. But I have women around me still. And so how can I transition this? So I thought about portraits, but the idea of just portraits did not appeal to me because I like the artistic side of what we do. That is what drives me. That is what's fun for me. So I tried just doing a couple portrait sessions and it was not fun for me at all. So I thought, okay, how can I incorporate the fashion side of what I do? So I invited someone in. It was not a paid shoot. I just said, can you just let me try something? And I tried what I call this Lux portrait thing. I tried just creating a mood board. I said, I want to try shooting you like a model. I want to try styling you like a model. I want to try lighting you like a model. I'm going to do everything like you were a model, but it's for a portrait client. And I fell in love. It's like, I could do this. I could adapt what I did for a portrait client and make this a thing. And from there, it kind of just exploded. It kind of just rolled itself out because word of mouth was big for me here. I don't pay for advertising. My clients advertise for me, which has been a huge, blessing really, because you can pay to advertise. I have tried to pay to advertise, but you can't put in a one-page ad what you do. Not really. Not really. This experience that you create for people, which people come back just for the experience. The pictures are great. Don't get me wrong. The pictures are great. But treating people like a supermodel, giving them this whole day of being pampered. I have stylists who are rubbing lotion on clients' hands and feet, who are catering to them. This is literally the closest you will come, unless you are an A-lister, to being treated like an A-lister for the entire day. And then you have pictures at the end of it. Just creating this environment, this experience for these clients, it markets itself. And so it just became this thing that has kind of marketed itself. And so of course, as an artist, you try to better your work. Of course, as a business person, you try to better your marketing and better your packages and better, you're always trying to better. You're never settling on any of it. But it has fortunately just it's worked. And I'm very fortunate and very happy. Of course, that being said, a lot of work has gone into it, a lot of work. And that is what I'm so excited about with this tutorial. Everything that I have created, everything that I have worked for, if I had had the tutorial that we created 5 years ago, my life would be maybe 5-10 years ahead, my business, of where I am right now. So to be able to create something to maybe give someone else a completely different starting place from where I was 5 years ago, I'm so excited for that. So it's going to be amazing.
Yes. Yeah. I cannot wait. So one of my favorite things to kind of dive into with artists is this idea of mindset and how you teach yourself to be the kind of person who is successful, because there are so many amazing photographers who just never make it past taking great photographs. They never either get the recognition that they really desire, their work never blows up, or they never end up being successful in business. I think there's something about becoming the kind of person who can be successful, right? Mm-hmm. So was that a journey for you? Did you come into this kind of already a little bit like high powered, high motivated, all that kind of stuff? Or were you somebody that had to kind of teach yourself the habits of thought and mind and other things that would allow you to get over those hurdles that we all kind of inevitably face as we're trying to become business people?
I would say I came into photography initially in a much more motivated, so it was a journey. I would say I came into it initially much more motivated because I came into it in fashion. I came into it without kids. I came into it with nothing but motivation and creativity and drive. And for years and years, that sustained me. And I really built this name for myself in DC and in Texas. And I had a lot of momentum going. And I really felt like this is my track. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is my future. And then I had this really ugly divorce. I lost my home. I lost pretty much my career. I had to move. I lost my location really, which is where my reputation was. And that doesn't just travel with you. And so I had to start over, which is a little bit of a challenge. I mean, you take some of your reputation with you, but that was a little bit of a challenge. Then I had to move again, and now I have a child, and now I'm not in a fashion area. At this point, it's starting to get a little hard. At this point, it's like, okay, now I'm having to really focus on mindset. So at this point, I really had to make the decision that I'm going to be successful, and I'm going to figure out a way to make this work. And I share that because as artists, we all have moments that are really frustrating. And I never had more confidence than when I started out, because you don't know what you don't know when you're starting out. I didn't have people to compare myself to necessarily. I don't know. I got so much praise and recognition for being I remember within 3 or 4 months initially of starting photography, I landed several magazines, like features and write-ups. And in hindsight, I look back at that, I'm like, well, that was maybe even damaging, because I thought I was so great when I first started out. You're not that great when you start out. I mean, my work was, it was what you expect when someone is 3 to 4 months into photography. And now, you have these greats to look at, and Instagram, and you're so aware of this world full of talent and world full of people. And I think that that's amazing, because you can set your bar higher. You can work towards goals. You can look at the great things about your work, and you can look at the shortcomings, and you can try to fill in those gaps. And I think that that is artistic growth, is spending your life just trying to fill in those gaps. But so at this point, as I'm rebuilding my career, it was a little bit harder. And there are times, I think, for any creative, and I think it would be just a lie to say that it's always easy, that it's never a challenge, that we never get frustrated or insecure. There were absolutely times when I struggled. And especially after a little bit of a gap and having my daughter and moving several times, I felt like my work had really gone backwards, because lighting models and working in editorials, it really is a very different style and very different posing and very different lighting than working with portrait clients. And now a lot of my clients are maybe socialites or people who are maybe look a little bit more like models, but when I was starting out, that was not the case. And those clients needed to be lit and styled and posed differently. And I was struggling to learn that style, because I wanted to give those clients that experience. I wanted them to feel beautiful. I wanted to give them everything that I would give to a model. And so trying to learn to fill in those gaps, I did struggle a little bit. But you work hard, you stay up late, you watch tutorials, you watch YouTube videos, you practice on a mannequin, you do test shoots, you work harder, you cry a little bit in the corner, and then you get up and do it again. You work, and eventually that work catches up. And I mean, I think that's the thing, is when you see people post to Instagram and you see great pictures, there's a lot of hard work behind their pictures. No one just wakes up and takes an amazing photo. There's a lot of work behind people's photos. And at some point, your knowledge of lighting and your knowledge of business and all those things, they kind of stack up on each other, and all of a sudden you have this great business. Well, if you're taught those things, then you have a leg up. And if you mentor with someone, you have a leg up. And if you watch YouTube videos, you have a leg up. All these things, they add up on top of each other. And I think that for me was something that just, I don't know, it all just added up at some point, and it worked. But there were absolutely, I don't know, maybe I'm talking in circles at this point, but it absolutely, there were struggles, but in the end, they ended up to be beautiful results.
Yes, no, totally understand. So when you're hitting those struggles, and when you're kind of in those places where, okay, I'm moving again, I have to rebuild myself from the ground up, and my work is going backwards a little bit. Did you what was it mentally, or what kind of fortitude? Like, so I know for myself, military family, moved with my business several times. It takes at least 2 years to reestablish yourself in a new place where you're getting the kind of business you can actually live off of. That's always a struggle. There's always an internal battle of like, should I even keep doing this as a business? It's, there's just this kind of monologue that you have about, maybe I shouldn't do that. I'll just do it for fun, or I'll do it as a hobby, or maybe I shouldn't do it at all. And, how do you keep yourself going? Is that at that time, is there anything particularly that motivated you, or something you said to yourself, or anything that kept you going and jumping over those hurdles to get where you're at now?
I feel like I see beauty in people. This is what I do. I feel like this is my gift. I don't know what else I would do if I didn't do photography. And just like, even if your marriage is great, there are moments of frustration. Even if you love your child, there are moments that you have to walk out of the room. Anything that is amazing in life, there are still moments that things are tough. There are moments when things were tough, but there's also been nothing that has given me the joy that photography has. There has been nothing that I have taken pride in the way I have taken pride in photography. So sure, I could walk away and spend, years and years. I could spend a decade learning something else, but this is what I take joy and pride in. And so for me, that is what keeps me coming back to it. You will have amazing clients. You will have difficult clients. You will have amazing shoots. You will have frustrating shoots. You will have good and the bad, but that is life. The idea that happiness comes only from no problems is false. Happiness comes, I believe, from solving problems. Happiness comes from overcoming obstacles. Happiness comes from proving to yourself that you can do, better than you did yesterday. So for me, that is what I get a lot of joy out of. When I started in photography, my Photoshop skills actually evolved from trying to fix bad lighting. I didn't know how to light. Now granted, I'm sure there were videos that I just didn't know how to find on YouTube, but I started in the era before there was a lot of the photography education that there is now. I didn't know what I was doing. I just aimed the lights at things and hit the button and hoped to God something was exposed, right? It was kind of sad. And someone had told me underexposed because at least you can try to bring it back. So a lot of my early work was hideously underexposed. And I spent so much time in Photoshop trying to fix some really ugly shit. It was bad. And so that's where a lot of my skills evolved from. And so now I get so much joy in the fact that I can show clients 200 unretouched photos with pride and say, those are your photos and they will look even better when I'm done, but they look damn good now. Yeah, girl, yes, preach.
Yes.
Yeah, they look good. And I take joy in that. And that is because I've overcome those hurdles and I can now show them unretouched photos, where in the past, the idea of showing someone an unretouched photo would legitimately give me anxiety because I couldn't do it. So, it's growing your skills. It's just putting that work in.
No, I love that. I think that's something I want to teach my kids, this idea that, number one, happiness is something that comes and goes, right? If you chase it, it runs faster than you do. So it's something that you have to just allow to come to you. And it's like the weather. I mean, you don't force a sunny day. It comes and you enjoy it. And when it goes, you have to learn how to be content. And this idea, at least for me, I find it powerful, this idea that you're supposed to enjoy the journey, because when you reach the destination, you're dead, right? That's it. When the destination is got, that's the end now. So you might as well find this joy in the process, which has always been a difficult thing for me because I'm a maker and I want to have a thing, I want to make and then be like, look, a thing. And so the process is harder for me because I want to reach the spot. But I think when you said, finding that joy in proving to yourself that you can do hard things, that is such a powerful idea. And I think joy in growth and in seeing yourself improve, I wish that we could really get that into our souls, because we have nothing but the journey. I mean, honestly, we don't get to keep the ending when we get there. It's done now and we have nothing but the journey. So we might as well just enjoy the shit out of it, right?
Yes, preach it.
Yes, love that. Also, you said something I think so many photographers just internally cringed at, showing clients unretouched photos. It's such a controversial thing. I know I fight with people online about this all the time. I'm like, let them have them. I don't understand. I show people the back of my camera all the time. If I'm shooting tethered, I will be like, look at you.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So what brought you to that place where you're like, I want them to see this? And how, for photographers who kind of cringe at the idea, what is the benefit of showing these to your client?
So that's a twofold thing for me. So what originally happened for me when I first started shooting portraits was the client showed up for her reveal. And this was when I first started, I was only showing 30 fully retouched, printed, matted portraits. That's kind of what I had been taught at the time. And she showed up and she looked at these pictures and she said, I only look beautiful because you photoshopped it, or something to that effect. Oh, they're only great because you photoshopped it, or, oh, you must have photoshopped it, something to that effect. And I just remember thinking, the whole purpose of this is lost if you think the only reason you look good is because I photoshopped you. So after that, I started making a point of turning my camera around numerous times at a shoot to show clients the back of the camera, because I want them to know that you look good before I ever take you into Photoshop. Photoshop is to enhance, not to transform. If you are transforming someone in Photoshop, you are not lighting right, you are not using your angles right, you are not using your lenses right. You should not be using Photoshop to create plastic surgery on your clients. So I do that, number one, because I want them to see that this is what they look like. That is part of the empowerment of what I do. I want them to know this is you. But then number two, so then the other thing was at their reveal, if I only show them 30 pictures, because I'm editing all of them in advance, I'm capping my sale at 30 pictures. I don't want them to buy 30 pictures. I want them to buy 90 pictures. I want them to buy 120 pictures. I want you to walk out the door with a $15,000 sale. So I need to show you a lot of pictures, because psychology says you're probably going to narrow it down to 50% of what I show you. I can't retouch 100 pictures for you hoping that you're going to buy, half of them, or 200 hoping that you'll buy half of them. So I have to show you unretouched pictures. And I'll tell you, the first time I did this, I was dying inside, because I remember thinking women come to me kind of for this fantasy, and I'm not sure that they're going to be able to look past unretouched pictures. I don't know that they're going to be able to do that. So I retouched a handful so they could see, here's what it will look like when I'm done. And I tell clients, it will, your pictures will look like everything on my Instagram or my website. And here's a few of you so you can see what it will look like. But here are all the unretouched options. So you have a variety of crops and, poses and expressions and da, 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 da. My sales went through the roof, like through the roof. Clients can look past it, especially if you don't put it on a huge screen and you just kind of show it on your laptop so that it's a little bit smaller. It's a little sales psychology for you. But yeah, it's small. Or an iPad, like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But my sales went through the roof. So depending on where you're at with your lighting, you may or may not be at that point if you are not confident and comfortable. But if you only show 30 pictures, you can only sell 30 pictures. So just depending on where you're at, I want to sell a lot more than 30. So I show a lot more.
Sure. No, I love that. That makes perfect sense. I have been trying to, and it seems like a lot of the people who I've talked to who have this approach either have some experience with commercial photography, or, have lived in that realm for a long time, because we're used to being here, client, here is everything. I mean, if they're not on set watching it happen,
Sure.
then you're giving them everything anyway. So I think we have gotten over that feeling of like, oh no, don't look. So, and it absolutely does. I mean, you have a couple of options, right? Like you either sell an individual image for so much money that if it makes a 30, you've topped out. But at that point, you're certainly limiting who can come to you, right? Like you're definitely limiting who can come and afford those kind of images. So, and also, I think there's something powerful in allowing people to choose the images of themselves that they like best.
Well, and that was a huge thing for me, because what I noticed in, I would say maybe a third of my sessions, was my favorite picture of them. The picture that I felt should be a 5x6 on your wall. This should be shown at your funeral. This should be the picture that's remembered of you for the rest of eternity, would get left on the floor. And the picture that I felt like, please don't tag me in this, please don't tell anyone I took this, like, please, for the love of God, don't take this with you, was the one that was their favorite. And I was like, there's a disconnect here. Like, what's happening? And what it is like, as artists, we are drawn to a certain look, a certain expression, a certain overall vibe. Sometimes the clients are not real into that. I had one client, like, again, my favorite picture, the artistic one, she's like, that's my drunk face. I was like, what? Like, what?
You know what that looks like?
That's a second question. But that's the thing, like, our clients see themselves differently than we see them. So when I give you 100 or 200 options, you have so much more ability to control what you are creating and the looks that you are creating. Sometimes they pull pictures that I would not necessarily have pulled, but I can always edit the ones that I want in my portfolio. And if it increases my sale, then great. I am going to weed out the ones that I for sure don't want them to take. I mean, I'm not going to let them. And I'm like, oh, good God, no. But, hopefully I don't take, many of those.
Yeah, no, I love that. I hope so many people are paying attention, because it will absolutely change not only the way that you deal with your clients, but the amount that you're earning as well. Because when people get to take ownership of what they walk away with, it completely changes the power and their feeling of connection to those images. These are the ones they chose, And I think as photographers, and as artists, we sometimes forget that we are service people and that we're there to provide something for someone. And we get very precious about our work. And we're like, no, I'm only choosing the ones that I think fit my style best. And if you show ones that I don't like, it's going to look badly. And people, it doesn't work that way. It really doesn't.
No. And that's we talked about that so much in my tutorial, is the service approach. Like, if you want to attract those higher end clients, if you want to create a 6-figure income with those clients, you have to come at it from that service approach, and you are not the priority. Your artist mentality does not come first. If the client wants to bring in a dress that she wore 20 years ago that she has good memories of, that is not any longer in style or doesn't fit her well, you are going to shoot it and you're going to smile and you're going to make it look the best that you can because it's her shoot. It's about service. And so that is a huge thing, is ego second.
Yes, 100% agree. So as you are learning to photograph these non-model women like models, did you find certain techniques or light setups or things that tended to work well for you? Or does it really just completely depend on the woman you're working with?
Yes and yes. There are definitely setups that I gravitate towards from my fashion days. Like, I love my beauty dish. I mean, that was one of my go-tos with my models, and I still love to pull it out. But of course, it does have to make sense with the skin type of my client or the age of my client. There are certainly lighting setups. I mean, we all have formulas. I like to think of lighting setups as formulas, and there are formulas that we all have as go-tos, but I don't ever pre-plan out anything. The way I work with my clients is I figure out their wardrobe first, because then I pair the wardrobe with backdrops or the colors, and then I figure out the lighting from there. So of course the lighting is important, but for every look, and they have usually 5 to 6 looks for each shoot, and I have to change the lighting for every single look. So it's all a progression, and everything has to change, and it all has to be flattering for their age and body type and skin type and all of that. But I don't have just go-tos. It has to make sense for the outfit, for the backdrop, for the, like, it's a lot. Like, it's a process. It's just, yeah. And it's all part of the magic of just making them look amazing.
Agree. So on that vein, Jay would like to know, what would be your Jay signature light setup?
Ooh, my J signature light setup. I love using either a soft lighter or a deep octa. Okay, no, actually, I take it back. So using this is the one I was thinking in my head. So my deep octa, so my medium deep octa with a grid on it, has really become probably my signature light setup in the past 6 months. I'm obsessed with it. I was using my Ellen Chrome one, but it kept falling off of my light. And so I actually got one from Amazon. It's super cheap, but it works really, really well. I can send you the link later on if you just remind me. But it works great. And the grid creates this really, it's like the spotlight effect, but it's really soft the way the light falls off. And it's so beautiful. And then I'll use a second light behind it to fill in the shadows. And when I do that, it creates this light that's both contemporary and dynamic, but also a little bit romantic. I love it. I use it for black and white. I use it for color. I use it all the time. And I'll put that gridded light directly in front of the client, headed down, because when you're using a grid like that, the light really has to be headed directly towards them, or it's just going to go black. A grid focuses the light so much that if you were to feather it, the light would just miss them. If you turn it off to the side, the light will miss them. When you're using that tight of a grid, it has to be pretty much direct. So the octa with the grid is directly towards them. And then the second light can be bounced into the ceiling. It can be also directly towards them, but like a large light source. It can be bounced into the ceiling. It can be anything that just fills the shadows. That has really become probably my most go-to light setup, and you can use it so many different ways. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yes. And I will say I am a fan of that as well. I have the 39-inch deep octa. It is my favorite light modifier.
Yes.
100% by far. I use it for everything. I will have all of them. There's really is something about the quality of light from those that just is so gorgeous.
So rich. It's so
beautiful. It is. I love it so much.
It's my favorite. Right here. Everyone needs a deep octa.
Everybody go get yourself a deep octa. Do it now. So in that vein, I generally don't talk about gear, but I do think that there are certain times when knowing why you pick certain things can make a huge difference. Recently, I interviewed Pedro Luque, who is a director for who is a director of photography, and he was telling me something that I really took to heart, because my general instinct is to be like, I'm more interested in vision and process and less interested in gear. But he said the gear is the language. And I was like it just smacked me in the head. I was like, well, of course, because once you have the vision, you choose the gear to fit that, right?
Sure.
So is there anything you're using that you feel like helps you really capture the vision that you have of these women? Are there any pieces of gear that just really suit your kind of visual style?
Do you mean lighting specific, or
Lighting or lenses, or is there anything that you just really feel like, because so I shoot often with a 50 millimeter, but it's not because it's my favorite lens. It's because it's what I have.
Sure.
I love the compression of a long lens, but also I really, really want the 24 to 70. I feel like being able to capture a lot in the scene, and bring in dynamic angles and this feeling of, when you're close to somebody, there's a feeling of immediacy of them kind of coming at you. And I feel like there's something really fun and dynamic about that. So I definitely think in those circumstances, when I'm trying to choose those lenses, I want them for the visual language that they provide, right? So do you have any gear that you feel like suits your visual language?
So I feel like your style is really defined by where you shoot. Like if you shoot on a beach all the time, that defines your style. I shoot in a space that is relatively long, but I'm also limited by kind of my shooting stages. So I typically shoot on a 50 and a 35. I do have an 85 that I'll pull out every once in a while, but what I find with portrait clients is when they're in the zone, when they're comfortable and they're trusting you, and you have the intimacy of that moment, when they're kind of letting their guard down and you're in the midst of that shooting session, I don't want to stop that to be like, hold on, let me change my lens. So I frequently am shooting on a 50 or a 35 because I have some flexibility with those, but mostly I'm on the 50 because I have the flexibility of coming in tighter or pulling back for a longer shot. Again, it's not that it's my favorite lens, it's that it's the most functional. It's the language that I speak in this studio. If I am shooting a more editorial piece, I will pull out the 100, I'll pull out the 85. I might be more on the 35 just because it gives me that elongating effect that I think you can play to some of the more artistic, what word am I looking for? You can play with some of the effects of lenses like that.
Yeah.
But then other pieces of gear that I use in here all the time, it's not technical really, but a fan, honestly, a fan changes the mood of a shot so much. And it makes a woman feel like she's in a cover girl moment, and it makes her feel special and empowered. And I say this like every time I talk to anyone about photography, it activates this otherwise still moment. And it just really changes the whole mood of a shot, whether it's moving the dress or moving her hair. I definitely use V-flats all the time. I can get technical in here. I can pull out all the lights and really make a scene complicated. But the truth is, I have to create 5 to 6 completely different looks in the span of not even 4 hours, because she's in here in makeup for an hour and a half. So I don't even have her for that long. And I have to hustle by the time I actually have her, while making it seem like a very relaxed and calm environment. I'm pretty tired by the end of it. So I'm not trying to make it an overly complicated scene. So at most, I'm usually trying to use 2 to 3 lights, and I'm using V-flats when I'm able, and I'm trying to bounce light around, and I'm trying to almost kind of like we do flow posing. I'm almost trying to do like light flow when I'm able to just move lights, just gradually progress them where I can. I try not to make it too technical. I mean, clients like it when they see lights all around them and they feel like they're in a commercial or something like that. Or husbands, when they come down here and they're like, oh, this is like a for real shoot. I'm like, yeah, like welcome.
Right. Like now I don't feel so bad spending this money.
No, like I'll take your wallet now.
Give.
Or your firstborn, either one will be fine. But I mean, the 50 and like a fan, I would say, are like 2 of the biggest things down here. One thing, like it's interesting. So when we filmed this tutorial, I was on the cusp of upgrading like my lighting in the studio, but I'm actually really glad that I hadn't yet. And so like, I'd love to talk about lighting right now, because I think that it's really like what you said, which is it's more important to just kind of get the shot, and the gear is more secondary. And that's kind of how I have come at it. And there's pros and cons to that. if you have amazing gear, you're able to do a lot of things off the bat that maybe someone with cheaper gear or less reliable gear isn't able to do. You are not guaranteed amazing work. I mean, Richard Avedon with an Alien Bees is going to be able to do things that your neighbor with, Pro Photo is not going to be able to do. But that's kind of how I had come at things. And I don't overly think about gear that much. It's just kind of like what I have works, it works. But I've been on the cusp of upgrading, and right now I shoot with Einsteins. And I'm really glad that we filmed the tutorial with those, because I wanted to show that you can use gear that wasn't super expensive to shoot things that look expensive and charge clients, well, to create a luxury experience. And then I'm going to upgrade shortly after that. But like, talk to me about what you use. Talk to me about gear, because you said you're kind of on the same page with that.
Yeah, I very much am a person who believes in using what you have until you outgrow it. Because I think you can make better choices about what you want once you understand the full extent of what you can do with what you have. Yeah. So I didn't know why I needed a full frame camera until I found myself not able to get what I wanted in the space that I had. I was using a 50, apparently I can't talk today. I was using a 50 millimeter lens in my spare room. As a portrait studio. And so my clients would come up and my makeup artist would come and she would make them beautiful. And then we would set up, in this tiny little space. And mostly I was getting, 3/4 and stuff. But I never could get any kind of great full body shots because I would be against the wall and they would be against the wall and I would be cutting them off at the knees with my Canon 7D. So I realized that, okay, at this point, the gear that I have now is not working for what I want to create. And I would not have known that if I hadn't been using it long enough to recognize it was a problem for me. Mm-hmm. And so I agree with you. I think, we can't just go, well, let me get pro photos. I don't know why I need them, but mm-hmm. I've heard that they're, whatever, and so uses them. So that must be what I should have if I want to graduate to the next level. I think your vision should get here and then your gear should come and meet. And then your vision should get here and then your gear should come and meet. Because otherwise you're spending a lot of money that you could otherwise be using for things like marketing or customer service or other things that, tutorials or mentoring or travel or networking. There are so many important ways that you can use your funds to grow than just buying the best camera or the best lens you think you can afford, because that's not necessarily going to make your work better. It's getting better at your job that makes you better at your job. And then you get the gear that you need that fits it. So I have the extraordinary blessing to be able to work closely with Elinchrom. So right now, all of my lights are Elinchrom ELCs. I have 2 500s and a 125. I also have a flash point that I use on location. So it's a battery head. So I can just kind of take that with me outdoors for when I need that additional light. And so when we helped launch the ELCs last year, well, it was at the beginning of this year, but we had them late last year so we could start creating work in order to share. And that definitely, I will say, having access to more modifiers, having access to better gear allowed me to work faster. It allowed me to be more stable. I could be more certain of getting the shot. I would have less failures. So those things, absolutely. And then having the kind of modifiers that really suited how I wanted to work, the kind of light that I like, that obviously made a huge difference for me. So, but up until that point, Alien Bees, off-brand things, a Photex soft lighter because it's $150 on Amazon and it's this big, huge, beautiful light. Those were my, they're fantastic. So those were my go-tos for a long time. But I had them, even then I didn't shoot to their full extent because I didn't know really entirely what I wanted to do. I was shooting sometimes fashion and sometimes beauty and sometimes portraiture, lookbooks or models, for their agencies. And in my free time, I was trying to make more creative things. And it wasn't until having the freedom to shoot in my garage, which is where I work, with this gear that I now have, that I was able to bring my visual language up to my vision. So at that point, I think that's where you go. But if the vision's not there, the gear does nothing for you.
I love that. That's a really good way of putting it. Cause I agree. I mean, that's how I kind of view it, but I really loved while we were filming the tutorial, because I haven't gotten a chance to really just hang out in a studio with other photographers, which I think is really just, I mean, number one, really, really fun, but number two,
Yes.
really just kind of a blessing, because you get to experience other people's experience. You get to learn from their successes, their failures, their viewpoints. And so while we were filming the tutorial, I got to hang out with 3 other photographers. And so while we're breaking, while we're setting things up, I got to learn from them. Oh, you should try this. You should try that. Have you seen this gear? Have you tried that? Right after we wrapped, I bought so much stuff. It got expensive real quick, but it was amazing. There's just so much that I hadn't even heard of. I mean, it was just really cool. I was like, okay, the second tutorial is just writing itself. Like we're ready to go.
Right.
But
yeah.
But like you said, it all does come from your vision, because it doesn't matter what equipment you have if you don't know how to use it. You can have the best gear in the world, and if you don't know how to light with it, it's not going to matter. So yeah, I think you phrased that really well. Really well.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm on the same page. I feel like if Cartier-Bresson and Aveden and all of the fantastic photographers throughout history were able to create stunning, timeless images that we still enjoy today with gear that is less sophisticated than the phones we have in our pockets, it's this first.
Oh, absolutely.
And gear second. I cannot believe we are already coming up on an hour mark. That went way fast. There's still so many things I wanted to ask you. So we'll get to a couple questions that we have really quickly. So Sean got here as well. Hi, Sean. The lovely Sean. So Jay would like to know, for your Luxe experience, what's something you provide for your clients that brings everything to the next level?
Everything to the next level. I would say, so I send them a welcome packet that's sealed with wax. And in that welcome packet is, of course, like the address to the studio guidelines, but there's a beauty guide, a luxe guide, which I wrote this year and which I have had clients raving about. There are tips from former clients. There are just everything that I can help my clients with in getting ready for their session. I want to take all the stress out. So everything from the first step out of their car, I will be at your car to help you carry clothes in. From that step, I will take you to your stylist. And I mean, just literally, I break it down for them. Here's what to expect when you show up. What I have found is when people don't know what to expect, they are stressed. When they know what to expect, they have something to look forward to. So that welcome packet literally just takes all of the questions out of the entire experience. Aside from the welcome packet, I try to make the actual experience just something really memorable. There are fresh flowers, there is champagne, there are European chocolates to nibble on. I have their music playing while we're shooting. We take care of them. If they're cold, I have my stylist, over here with a hairdryer, keeping them warm. I have stylists rubbing lotion on them if we need a sheen or if their feet are dry. Like, we just take care of them. We do everything that we can. And leading up to the shoot, I have people texting me pretty much nonstop, where can I go to get acrylics before the shoot? My clothes need to be, steamed. Do I need to do that the night before the shoot? I'm like, no, I've got you. I have a steamer. I'll take care of it while you're in hair and makeup. Just, there's no ego. I will carry clothes for you. I will steam clothes for you. I will put lotion on your feet for you. Like, I am a photographer, but I literally do everything else for you the day of the shoot too. You have to put the artist thing aside. They came to you because they wanted a picture, but the day of the shoot, you're pretty much everything else for them too. But that's also why they're going to market for you and be a customer for life for you and just rave about you, because you're going to do something so special for them.
I love that you just said, I have no ego. Oh my goodness. That's so, people don't realize how powerful that really is. Because when somebody comes to you and it's all about them, it shouldn't be about you. You don't show up with your director's hat on and your little cigarette and go, I don't like it that, like that's not what this is meant to be.
That sounds like fun though.
I know. We should just do that for fun. Like, just show up and boss each other around. No, move that. I don't like any of it. No.
And we shoot each other.
That would be the most fun ever. Also, I have to say, the more you describe it, the more I'm like, how am I going to get to Missouri? And I told myself I was never going back to Missouri because
technically in
that's
Illinois,
where I was training for the military there. And I was like,
no, Illinois, just across
the just boop.
across.
Yes. Sean says she's looking forward to the tutorial. So as we close up, before I ask the final question, tell us a little bit about what we can expect from this tutorial and why people need to be on the lookout for it. I already know some of the secrets, and I'm super excited for it, but let us know what we can expect.
I am so excited. So my tutorial is coming out through PRO EDU. It is about luxe portraiture and retouching. So I'm going to teach you really the secret of building a luxe portraiture business, about how to attract these dream clients, how to build a service that not only attracts these clients, but gets them to market for you, how to create an environment that is like a 5-star experience, something that will have them telling their friends about you, something that is memorable, something that is just so different than the photographer down the street. I think as artists, we focus so much on our work. If we're not getting booked, we think it's the work. If we're not getting referrals, we think it's the work. Sometimes it's not just the work. Sometimes it's the experience. Sometimes it's the all-around package. I want to talk to you about marketing. I want to talk to you about sales. I want to talk to you about how you price your work. Let's talk about your website. Let's talk about your online presence. Let's talk about all of this, because it all factors into the clients that you're attracting. And what is really, really cool about this is not only am I teaching this to you, and I'm giving you everything that I know about not only the marketing and the sales side of this, and of course my photo shoots. We have 4 incredible photo shoots and 3 looks on each of these photo shoots. So 12 actual, setups. So a lot of content coming and retouching and reveals. So all kinds of amazing content with that. But we brought in 8 of my former clients and interviewed them, which, by the way, was like the closest that I will ever come to getting to just like listen in at my own funeral. It was amazing. It was amazing. I'm sitting in the back like, tell me more, tell me more. But we got to interview them and really ask them, what are you looking for when you book with a photographer? Why did you come? And why did they come to me? But what were they looking for? What did they love about the experience? Why would they come back? If they went to another photographer, what would they value the most? What should someone new getting into this kind of business know? What should they value and prize and focus on in their business? It was really gold. I mean, it was really gold. And we sampled from, such a diverse, sampling of my clients. We just got such amazing information. I just sat there kind of in awe. I was like, wow, I'm going to sit back and watch this and listen to this. It was fantastic to listen to. We talked about emotional intelligence and how to key into your clients and really listen to them and really serve them. Because yes, we are photographers. And so yes, of course, we're talking lighting and retouch. And yes, it's important. As an artist, I only want to improve my work. I mean, I understand that. We're going to talk about that. But you are a service. You are a service. This is really important that you understand this, that you are giving to them. And it's also important that you understand that there's an ounce of like forgiveness there for your work if your service is really good. So if you feel like your work is not top notch, don't feel like you can't build a luxury portrait business. If your service is really freaking good, that might carry you some of the way. I'm going to teach you that. I'm going to teach you how to build a 6-figure business. I'm going to teach you how to get clients to market for you. I'm going to teach you how to earn a sustainable living in this, and not just sustainable, amazing, amazing living, because I want you to thrive in this. Like as artists, we're not supposed to starve at this. We're supposed to thrive at this, be empowered at this so we can empower our clients. That's the point of this. So I'm going to empower some people. It's going to be amazing.
Yes. Heck yeah. Heck yeah, you are. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go build a business right now. I'm just going to go do it. Okay. Is it Mawaya? Please tell me it is. I want to say your name right so badly. She said, I pre-purchased the tutorial. I can't wait to watch it and implement. Yay!
Oh, yay.
That is super good news. I already know that it's going to be extraordinary. So guys, this is your last chance. If you have questions for Jay, please get them in right now, because this is your last chance to ask them. So there's one question that I always ask everybody toward the end, and it's changed the way that I look at us as artists as a whole. So I'm always excited to hear what people have to say, but I know we've covered a little bit of it already. What is your why? Why create? as a living? Why the making of something?
I think the act of creating is I think it's an almost spiritual thing. We are the only life form on earth that truly creates. I mean, I've seen like, elephants with paintbrushes before, but I don't think that's the same thing. We are able to create, the Statue of David and the Sistine Chapel, and like we are able to create true art. And I think it is a reflection of soul, and I think it's a reflection of something so much greater than us. And I think that as artists, we are given a gift, and I think you are supposed to give it back. I cannot do math in my head. Do not call and ask me for directions on the way to my studio. I will not be able to get you here. Like, there's a lot of things I cannot do, but I can see beauty in women. That is a gift that I have. And when I give it back to women, I feel like I am doing what I am supposed to do. It is something that I wish had been done for me when I was younger. I think if I had been validated, it would have made a huge difference for me growing up. A lot of the women that I work with are not adolescents. I mean, I used to work with younger girls as models, and now I'm working with women, but just because you're older does not mean you're in any less need of validation. We still need to be seen. We need to be seen. Just because you're a wife or a mom, does not mean that you're not still a woman, does not still, I mean, like, obviously but you know what I'm trying to say? Like, we are still very much here. We're still very much us. We're not just there to be something for someone else. That could be said much more eloquently, but we are here, and we are valuable, and we are loved, and we are very much worthy. And so I want to do that for other women. And that is very much my why. Could have been a more eloquent why, but it's my why.
No, it's beautiful. I love it so much. And I agree. I think the need to feel seen is at the deepest part of our core. And that's why we choose the friends we choose and the partners we choose. Those are the people we keep in our lives, are the ones we feel really see us. And in your why, there's something that resonates with me really strongly. And I've said before, I think the ability to create is the thumbprint of the divine on our souls. I think that is the closest we ever come to divinity, is to make a thing from nothing. And so I feel that very much. I think definitely there's some kindred spirit there, because I agree. I think that's the most powerful, and it becomes a compulsion. You start to feel out of sorts and lost from yourself when you can't make. I don't know if that's Maria. Okay, Maria, thank you so much for telling me. I find it, I think getting somebody's name right is another way we see people, and making sure they understand that they're respected and valued. I don't ever want to pronounce anybody's name wrong continually. Once I know what it is, I must now have it. So thank you so much for telling me. Jay, that was so lovely. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming on. I wanted this to keep going because I feel like there was so much great insight, and I think getting these little hints of what we can expect in your tutorial and what people can expect from you and look forward to and being able to do in their business is so incredibly valuable. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored. And this was a really beautiful, beautiful way to spend tonight. So thank you for that.
I'm so glad we did this instead of other things we could have been doing, like drinking on the sofa, maybe.
I'm drinking with you.
Right, which is way better, right?
It's way
better.
And now I'm just looking forward to you
totally
coming with Angel Wings, so it's gonna be great.
I know it's gonna happen now. It's gotta happen. I think I'm gonna get one of those helmets, man. Like, have you seen those?
Yeah, like
like Spaceman. I'm 100% tempted. Like, I feel like that is now the key to living my life.
And we have a whole YouTube of people who are ready for the pictures.
Right? They're like, please photograph her in the helmet. Make it fashion. We'll make it fashion.
Make it fashion.
Maria, Jay, Olga, Sean, David, Pro EDU tutorials, Bobby, everybody who is here today, Becca and Kelly, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you guys coming in, learning from Jay, sharing your questions and your thoughts with us. I always appreciate that. So thank you. Please give this a like if you found it valuable. There are people out there who need to hear the wisdom that Jay shared with us tonight. There are people who need to grow, and they're not going to do it until they hear the right words from the right person. And if you don't share this with those people, they won't have it. So please, please share and let them know that this is out there so that they can grow the way that I grow every time I speak to one of these amazing people, and the way that you guys do every time that you're here and you learn from them as well. So please share this with them. I have an amazing week next week. In fact, this entire month is amazing. Next week, I have Brooke Shaden. She will be here on Monday. John Gonzalez will be here, and Becca Bjorky will be here. So we've got like a month full of amazing creatives. So please return and hang out with us for those. And like and comment, guys, you know, do the thing. Like, I want to keep these videos going for you and sharing this awesome stuff with you. And the more you guys engage and share, the better chance it has of reaching people whose lives can be changed. So do that. Jay, where can we find you online?
You can find me on my website, jmayhew.com, and it's JAIMAYHEW. It's also Jay Mayhew on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, and there's only one Jay Mayhew that I'm aware of, so it should be pretty easy to find me.
Boom, people. Also, I will have those links for you in the comments, well, in the description of the video. Also, be on the lookout for that tutorial release from Pro EDU. Go hang out, sign up. We are sending out information all the time, letting you guys know what's coming up. So do that. And in the meantime, until next week, again, Jay, thank you so much. All right, everybody, I will see